we are going to be going over the final presentation for my FS 504 course project looking at daily fitness using the DMAIC process. And as I said, this is our last and final portion of this project, and we'll kind of do a review over the different phases of the DMAIC process and end with our outcome and what we found from all the data. So let's get started. Project goals. So the basic problem was that I wanted to track and to monitor my daily activity. As stated before, the daily activity is going to include all types of physical activity, including running, walking, gym time, hiking, weightlifting, anything that's going to happen within a 24-hour period that we can list as an activity. And then to make a more specific goal, our actual goal is a two-piece goal. One piece being that I walk at least 7,500 steps a day, and then the other piece of the goal is that I have at least 3 events that are ranked 2 or higher in intensity. Now, the intensity ranking is a subjective ranking that I've made up from 0 to 5. 0 being no activity at all, 2 or 3 being maybe running or walking, and like those 4s or 5s are going to be like a really heavy hike or really intense workout or a really, really long run, something like that. So it's just a ranking I give myself, and I want at least 3 of those a week. And going back to kind of the problem is that I've never actually really tracked this progress or daily fitness. And then obviously the benefits are to maintain and possibly increase my fitness and overall health, through these activities, through the commitment to the process. Continuing with the define phase, one of the first steps I did was I created a fishbone to kind of be proactive and map out some of those things that might intervene with the workout. So looking at the fishbone, the problem statement was missed a day of exercise or activity, and then the different parts of the fishbone will be the reasons why. So as you can see, going from the top around either busy with things like cleaning or work, class even, social activities, boating on the river, family events, things like that. Excuses, obviously. The main one I want to look at there, which comes up later in this project, is the lazy portion. So let's make a note of that now, and then we'll see that coming up again later on. And then other things, hunting, we'll be moving here lately for a new job, stuff like that. Alright, keeping going with the define phase, you want to put some scope and boundaries out there. So first, I'm going to have to record every single daily activity, and we're going to use various tools to do that we'll discuss here in the next slide or so. And it's really going to be important to be honest with myself about the activities and record accurately and consistently, because if I start skewing the data, it's taken away from the benefit of the process, and just we're not going to get the outcome or the true results or data that we're looking for. And then looking more at the scope and boundaries portion, some of the tools we're going to use. The first top part was a quick snippet of that master data table that I used that we'll look at here shortly. And then in the bottom left, you can see some of the fitness tracking tools, the Fitbit or the Misfit that I used, and the application that it comes with. And then also just some handwritten, an example of some handwritten records that I might use before I get the information into that Excel file. And here is a snapshot of the actual master data table that I used. Going from the left to right, we can see it records the date, the type of activity, running, walking, whatever, weightlifting, that intensity ranking that I referred to, and you can see how that matches up here with a weightlifting being a 4, and then you can see some of the 0 activities, and then the duration of any activity that occurred. Next are daily steps monitoring, and then you can see I put a column in for why I might have missed an activity. So those 0 intensity days, I want a reasoning of what happened, and then I had just a overall comments portion of what type of workout, just miscellaneous stuff that might help me in the data tracking. Just as always, observations are always beneficial when you're looking at data. And then in the measure phase, I kind of just put together a quick table, one for intensity, one for my steps, just to kind of give me an idea or a map out initially of what we were working with. So this just shows a quick ranking of each day and where we were. You can see how many days we missed. Had a lot of 1s and 2s at first, stuff like that for the intensity. Here was just another quick bar chart of my daily steps, and you can see that I put that red line in just to show kind of the average at that time of where we were at. But you can see the 921, you can make a note of that. That was when the battery died in my Misfit, which we put a control into to monitor the battery life. Later on in the analyze and improve phase that we'll get to, that was actually removed from the data, so we are not using that date. We pulled that out because it was skewing the overall information. And now jumping into the analyze phase, I first put together a Pareto chart of the excuses. Again, what I said in the Fishbone, it was funny that I put that bit about lazy in there, not knowing what would come out of it at first, but that was one of the two biggest reasons of why a daily activity was not completed. The left side, you're looking at frequencies. The bottom are the different types of excuses that I came up with, and you can see that over 58% of the excuses are based on being lazy or traveling. So doing a lot of traveling because I live away from home, also the new job, and then also laziness because that's the easiest reason not to work out. So that kind of was a big eye-opener that those were two areas that could be fixed in the improvement phase. And then you had a few other miscellaneous things that really didn't end up being a major portion. So I wanted to really look at the laziness and traveling and see if we can really combat that laziness portion. So in the improve phase, I chose to actually hire on a volunteer quality assurance technician, and that was going to be my fiance, Amy Rich. She was kind of voluntold that she was going to be a part of this DMAIC process. So her job requirements included ensuring that I got those daily steps, those 7,500 steps a day done, and then also to help me monitor the amount of weekly workouts I had. She was there to encourage and kind of audit me throughout the week to make sure that I was getting those steps done, and then seeing where I was at in the week to see how many more of those activities I had, to see if I had my 3 done for the week or not. And then after that, I put together a IMR chart to analyze the data I had. And if you look a few points before we start looking at this in depth, is that I did actually add on all the way up to December 10th because I wanted to continually analyze and improve after I implemented my improvement of hiring on the quality assurance technician. So I kept recording data just so we had some more information to see if the improvement was actually working. 2 points for the eye chart. The green line I just put in there to show the goal of 7,500 steps a day, and the red vertical line is a line that's used to mark the day the improvement was implemented. So if we're looking at the eye chart, you can really see the variation before the improvement was made. There's a lot of jumps going up and down across that average line of high and low activity days. And you can see at the end, after the improvement, it actually does tighten up a little bit. Good thing to see is that it is above the average that or the goal that I put into that green line goal. So all the steps after the improvement are above that were before that red line improvement. You can see that there are some below. Another point here is that in my initial analyze and prove phase, I had the 9/21 date where the battery died, and it actually came outside of my lower control limit. So kind of data that we wanted to pull out there because it really messed up the overall information. And then looking at the range chart at the bottom, you can see those points that line up with the eye chart where we have those big dips of high steps and low steps, and that's where you see some of these points coming closer over the upper control limit, which again, that's not too big an issue because it's just showing the variation between day to day, but it's a good way to track and monitor, and you can use both charts together to see, well, why is that out of control. And what you can see on the 18th, we had below 500 steps, and then the day after we had over 1,500 or 15,000 steps. So you can see that variation. It pinpoints that. And then if you look to after the improvement day on the 23rd, the points kind of group together a little bit better. There's nothing outside of the upper control limits because my steps were a little more consistent. They were all above 7,500, so that was good. So it kind of reinforced that the improvement was actually working there at least. The next step in my analyze and improve phase was I put together a couple of histograms, and then for me, analyzing the histograms, just a quick point was that I could have put in a percentage, but it really, for me, looking at these two graphs side by side, although they have different y-axes, it's kind of subjective. So if you look at the histogram before, you had a lot more data compared to what we had after. So I kind of kept them the way they are right now. The histogram before shows a large frequency of zeros with a kind of almost similar amounts of 1 to 5s. And then the new histogram shows a decent amount of zeros again, no activity days, but then you do see a pretty good amount of 2 to 5 range as well, which is good. At first, when the solution was first implemented in my last Analyze and Improve presentation, that wasn't the case, but as we've moved on since the improvement, we've gotten more good data that qualified for the goals that we had set. So, and also I analyzed these histograms a little bit more, and the before solution histogram has about 44% of the workout intensities were those 0 or 1, so the none to minimal activities. And then in the after solution histogram, actually, we had dropped that number down to 32% of all of the days with a 0 to 1. So our actual frequency of 0 to 1 activity intensities has increased by about 12%. So that's a good thing. We've got more. It means we have a higher frequency of those qualifying intense activities ranging from 2 to 5, which is what we're looking for in our through our improvement, and that's meeting our goal overall. And then what we had next was our next steps, looking at the control phase. And when we last had my presentation, it was looking at the analyze and improve phase to continue it again because we wanted more data. We didn't have a lot of data post improvement, so we did that. And then the control phase was to exclude any miscellaneous data, so we excluded that point that was where the battery died, and then kind of want to conclude and wrap up the process and ensure that these improvements are maintained and actually working. So that was kind of where we left off at the end of the analyze and improve phase, and then we wanted to go to the control phase to wrap up the DMAIC process. To wrap up the DMAIC process, we wanted to end with the control phase. So first point was to exclude that miscellaneous data. So we took out that battery life, and it really did affect the IMR chart where you saw that lower control limit was not out of whack anymore. So that helped to remove that. And then we wanted to kind of conclude to see if the process was actually improved. And I want to say that yes, it was a success. I think that after the improvement, the daily steps were definitely maintained. We saw that through the IMR chart that we were above 7,500 or higher every day since the improvement was implemented, and that we saw a decrease in the lower intensity activity days. We saw that there were less days. We were meeting at least 3 a week, and that sometimes more because we saw that there was less of those 0 to 1 ranked intensities each week, which is great. That's what we wanted. So, as an overall endpoint, I say yes, the improvement and the solution was correct and was a success. Now, what's important about the control phase is that we want to ensure that this process continues. So, in my side, I will continue to continually use the activity tracker, the Misfit activity tracker, and then from that, input all that data into the master data sheet. And hopefully, Amy will stick around and help me work with the quality assurance portion of it and kind of be there as my support system to help me monitor and ensure that I'm doing those workouts each day. We've actually finally, after 3 years now, we're working out of the gym together. So that is kind of there as my support system to ensure that I'm getting to the gym. And then what I also think is important in this process, and especially the control phase, is that we look for continuous improvement. Although we were to improve the process now, how do we keep improving throughout the job or the goal or the task that we're doing? So what I want to do is moving forward is kind of do a monthly audit to review the data and ensure that all these steps and weekly intensity workouts are being maintained and everything's going the way it should be. Am I still using the activity tracker? Am I using the master data sheet how I should be, making sure all the data is inputted? And then is my quality assurance tech still doing her job and helping me out? It's important to audit it because if I start slacking or anything like that, we can see that in another IMR chart and rerun that with the new data. So a monthly audit would be great. And then also looking at continuous improvement as well, I think it'd be great to increase the goals. So let's make it 10,000 steps or 8,000 steps, and then make it 4 or 5 intense workouts a week, because we want to continually improve this process over time. We can make one improvement, and that's great, but what's going to happen over time? Are we just going to plateau or flat time, or are we going to flatline or continuously improve this process over and over again? So that would be a great thing to do. If the data keeps being positive, we increase that goal line later on. So I think that's about it. Again, the DMAIC process for increasing my daily fitness of 7,500 steps and at least 3 activities with an intensity of 2 or higher was a success, and I want to thank you for taking the time to review these lectures over and over again, and hope it was beneficial and informative for you. And thanks again. Have a good one. Bye.